So much for New Year resolutions, because you still might be trying to stick to that diet, but let's say Washington has given up even trying. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and get ready to get back to more spending. Scratch that. Get ready to, well, continue more spending, because Washington never really stopped. The president ending the week with a budget that is, well, weak. $56 billion in more spending and goodies for all, including new domestic initiatives to keep Democrats happy and plenty of defense bennies to keep the Republicans happy. But if you're among those silly folks who worries about the debt and more spending, well, you're not happy. Tough, because the president nixed even the most minor cuts in promised spending, including minuscule cost of living adjustments in some benefits programs that now ain't happening. And Republicans not arguing. It's a shame. It's a sham. Spending money like we have it when we don't. $1 trillion for a farm bill that has little to do with farms. And billions more planned for infrastructure spending when we have little to show for the hundreds of billions of dollars we already spend in, well, infrastructure stuff. Forget Republicans crying foul. They're not even saying boo. No wonder Tea Partiers are boiling. They were shoved to the side by mainstream Republicans who felt that their antics risked crashing the party's victory chances this fall. Now I want you to meet a Tea Partier who isn't taking this nonsense lying down. Gina Loudon says that in this big old rush to give up the fight, Republicans have lost their soul and will likely keep losing elections as a result. Gina, I mean, they're just folding one event after another. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I think that this is completely not going to work in their favor. I think that they're afraid of being called obstructionists, and I think that's almost laughable. If I were a Republican right now and I had a leadership position in that building, I would rock the obstructionist label. Neil, I would wear it for all it's worth, and that is exactly how I would win elections. But they cower because they don't want to be called names. Well, guess what? They're going to be called names, and I'm going to make sure of it, because this kind of behavior is exactly what's wrong. Let's tack on another $56 billion for our grandkids to pay for. It's not just spineless,
to your point, without even
Neil.
saying boo. And it was an issue that no less than Alan Simpson, the co-debt commission chair, was raising with you yesterday. He's livid. Listen to this.
Holy smokes. It is really Alice in Wonderland, and it gets worse every day, because this president, he will fail as a president. His legacy is imperiled if he doesn't do something.
Yeah, but he's doing it with Republicans' blessing. And what bothers me, Gene, is he's doing it with Republicans who seem to be hanging their hats on the health care thing exploding and getting worse and worse and worse. But I've been noticing some of the president's poll numbers. I mean, they're hardly robust, but they're beginning to move up. So they might be hanging their fortunes on something that might not go their way. And all this while, they've given up their spending resolve.
Yeah, and the Republicans, to stand around and say, oh, I'm disappointed, that just does not gel anymore with the American people who are looking at in real terms. I mean, this is tantamount to me, saying to my husband, I'm just going to spend as much money as I want and just rack up whatever debt I want to and not worry about any sort of responsible budget and hand it off to my children and grandchildren. This is the same thing. And Obama gets away with this every time because the Republicans never say boo, just like you said. They have taken this again and again. They keep raising the debt ceiling, which I prefer to call the debt tent. And then they all point fingers at one another. Oh, it's not our fault. It's his fault. While Obama very effectively, with the media machine behind him, goes ahead and points the finger at the Republicans, and the Republicans cower in the corner like scared children.
No,
they have
ridiculous.
got to behave like adults. They have a job to do. They need to say no to this ridiculous spending.
Well, right or left, you got to know that spending money you don't have is wrong. But, Gino, always a pleasure. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Neil. Good to be with you.
Well, did Republicans actually ask for all of this spending nonsense? To Gina's point, think about it. They caved on the farm bill, signed on to a debt ceiling hike without a single demand attached to it. Is it any wonder Democrats smell blood and keep going for green? Your green, our dollars. Let's just say Tommy Thompson's wondering himself, and the former Republican Wisconsin governor and Bush Health and Human Services Secretary is here. You got to wonder, Secretary, about the logic that a lot of Republican leaders are using now to sort of avoid rocking the boat, even as they sign on to more spending.
You're absolutely correct, Neil. And the truth of the matter is that the only good thing about the $56 billion tax increase budget that Obama is putting forth is that it's about $22 billion less than the last failed budget he put in. This budget is going no place, nowhere. It's dead on arrival. Everybody knows that. Even John Ernst, the spokesperson from the White House, has said this is a political document. It's a political document, but the Republicans have got to show leadership. The Republicans, like Al Simpson said, and like the person who was just on before me has indicated, the people out here in the vineyards are wondering what's going to take place. They understand out here working 8 to 10 hours a day that they cannot continue to spend money they don't have. And it's time for the Republicans to put a stake in the ground. And it's not only Obamacare that's going to win elections, it's the fact that who's fiscally responsible. And it's got to be the Republicans.
No, Governor, I think you hit the nail on the head. And I understand, when the logic of the John Boehners and the Republican leaders who say we don't want to be, pegged for another government shutdown or look like obstructionists. But the danger with hanging your hat on this health care law and thinking it's going to be just as germane and obnoxious an issue in November is, you got to hope that continues to be the case. The president's poll numbers are ticking up, not a lot, but a bit. And the wrath for the health care law, and that might change, is stabilizing. That's not to say the health care law is great or that the president's a great president, but it shows that in the meantime, Republicans have given up something that's in their DNA to address overspending in the hope that they'll get their way in November. I think they're eating their cake a little too early.
Well, if the Republicans don't stand up for fiscal responsibility, nobody will. You said it best. It's in their DNA. And that's what the Republican Party stands for, is fiscal responsibility. And that's what the people out here in the hinterlands are asking for, Neil. They don't like Obamacare. They know it's a failure. But they also want to make sure that they do not bankrupt this country and put it off on our sons and daughters and our grandchildren. People out here are thirsting for leadership. They want Republicans to stand up and be accountable for what's going on in Washington and put a stake in the ground.
The Republicans say, Governor, they get mixed messages. The people say you better attack this debt and be on top of it. But lo and behold, when they start to rein in, let's say, on Social Security spending or cost of living increases, then they go, no, not that. And so Republicans fear that they get electrocuted. What's your advice for them?
My advice is to be straight with the American people. The entitlement programs in America are way out of line. We cannot afford them. We cannot afford to continue to raise the debt, now over $17 trillion. We're going to bankrupt this country, and it's about time that somebody says so, and we got to get the people behind us, and the Republicans have got to articulate that vision. They got to do it day in and day out. They cannot sit in the corner and wait for somebody else to do it. They have to do it.
Tommy Thompson, well put, far better than I. Former Health and Human Services Secretary, Governor, thank you.